just to continue with the mentality recap. So, it was because they weren't open to change. This is based on what I've gone through in my own personal journey and how I accepted the lesson to learning to rebalance my own center from conflicting circumstances that were otherwise sabotaging my own potential. It took me a few years to work around that, and these things always start off with a lot of questioning, but I want to say that I'm not a medical expert in this, and nor a psychologist, and it should be for your own interest to have an appointment with a specialised person in mental health at your own discretion if this should affect you in some way. I hope it's for the better, and that it readdresses your own path forward. But it was because they weren't open to change that they made that decision to withdraw early. They didn't allow the potential to grow because they were not growing within themselves. This is apparent through their actions, therefore they rejected the abundance because they didn't learn the lesson of finding the abundance always comes from within, and because the emotions would have blurred the option of having respect for the potential of making their changing experiences by holding on to old mentality instead of letting go, where the guy could have changed his life and that of his family. His judgment was based upon his belief in himself because he was already most likely unhappy about something that had held him back in the past, weighing him down to have achieved that decision that could have otherwise made improvements into his life, but he did not respect that decision enough to move forward, meaning potentially there was manipulation of his emotion from something that happened in the past where he was conflicted, and through that confliction affected his judgment. Enough he let his emotions get the better of him, and it backfired, even though there was no way, since he had already done the trade he backed out of. But the potential, even at the beginning of his friend advising him, and of course that was all happening back then. We all heard from a friend of a friend of a friend, but about how many of those friends of a friends of a friends actually achieved the potential of earning those 1000x gains? How many of them is only ever most likely one out of all those pockets of people go on to carry that forward? And the reason is because of the mentality, and to understand the mistakes within us is a mistake. It shouldn't be seen as a mistake. It should be the first stepping stone to learning about the failures first before you go on to refine that success. And these issues are a part of that problem. And this is what I'm trying to pinpoint in my own learning through mirroring what has been happening to this guy. And I forget who he is. I saw the video a long time ago, but he seemed quite distressed about his decision. But the point that I'm making is that if he had wanted to be a part of crypto, he would have joined it earlier on instead of just following that one token at that one time, just for a short blip. He didn't believe in his own potential until he realized, when he backed out early of that trade, that he was letting something that could otherwise, with allowing growth of waiting a few months, holding, by watering, we almost temper ourselves with being kind to ourselves by strengthening our brain. If we focus so much on our body and our ego to create the sculpture of the six-pack and whatnot, then why is it that we can't otherwise focus on our ability and our understanding of our mindset in the same way that we can with our own bodies? And I think this is quite a big block that I would like to try and kind of knuckle down on, with some clarity and some tips into having a better mental health attitude towards finance, is having a better attitude towards yourself, and to be kinder to your mind, because essentially your mind is a muscle too, and we forget its importance. And only through giving thanks for even having another day to learn, another day to grow, another day to inspire, is a gift in itself. And the more we are thankful for the smallest things day by day, the more we empower ourselves in our mind and our mental health to become more clearer, to making out of difficulty through these emotional weights. And I think this is why I go back to the truth to value as a weight in a sum, because this is what we are seeing here becoming more apparent for a lot of people, and the difficulty accepting to believe in themselves in a better way, because we haven't had that understanding in society where we grow up or whatnot. And by becoming a community together, we can improve ourselves by being kinder to us, and that always starts from within. And when we get these moments in our lives, it's not just a chance to see the potential of the monetary reward, but it's also to understand the value of the lesson that we have learned by giving back to ourselves, not just when we have placed our own values of others, misleading our own potential somehow, and therefore creating emotional weight that backfires in the most unexpected ways. And it's to show that this example shows his emotion somewhere down the line was blurred, and it left him stuck in something he most likely was not dealing with. And so the weight was still there as a heavy weight, with him being held back from, otherwise, if he was kinder to himself, to free himself, he would be able to have left that trade in longer and to grow it every day with kindness, is to almost water it and allow the photosynthesis as an example, to develop its roots in growing a new journey of opportunity. And opportunity isn't just monetary. Sometimes abundance comes in many forms. It's just depending in our own inner language of how we see and respect these things. And how we balance our emotions is also key to that understanding. And he held himself back, and so they rejected that change, whether they knew it unconsciously or consciously. They still rejected it early in its game. And I mean, a lot of people went through that in crypto, and I did several times. But you have to, if you want to be in that game is not just, crypto isn't a game, it's a way of life, and it's becoming more so every day when artists are becoming more successful in it as time goes on, because it's a long-term thing. And you have to have, it's not a short-term strategy. Yes, the bull cycle might be over a year or something, and there might be one or two tokens in the trades where it's enough for you, but in order for it to be enough, you have to make the right decisions, and you have to analyze that journey to making those correct decisions is through clarity and through the better judgment of yourself. And to find out is to see what is holding you back from going forward. It isn't necessarily about what could have happened here, but what was missing as a way to change through the learning where he was shut down. And that is probably the key thing to realizing, to allowing yourself to be more abundant in future. And that was kind of like a test in a way to his own ability of accepting change. And sometimes these lessons and these decisions and these choices, the rewards that they can otherwise present us with are life-changing in themselves. And it's kind of strange for me to say this at this moment in time, but these things are always going to be life-changing, and we have to be in the best position to create those clear-cut decisions. And the only way we can do that is through understanding our emotions. And when we have that understanding, we have the idea to understand the weight of those decisions and the choices that comes with the road that lies ahead of us, and the directions that await us to move forward and out of situations that no longer serve us, or that where there are areas we can further improve on. And maybe it's about finding passion, maybe it's about a new direction, or leaving things behind to move forward in a new direction. These decisions define us, and they are very hard, but sometimes very much needed. But the point is, when they come at a cost, like this type of situation it's one of those things where you can only ever take the lesson from what is otherwise holding you back. And sometimes when there aren't the people around you, you kind of have to be brave enough to stand up for yourself and move forward in the most respectful way, the most honourable way, by letting go, if that is the case, in order for you to make the best changes in your own life and your own path ahead. Because if there's something that's holding you back that you otherwise would have had an opportunity to change your life in a drastic way, then what is it that was keeping you stuck where you are? And somehow there has to be a way to free yourself, and sometimes it's the most obvious thing. We just don't know until we figure it out by doing something different and by trusting something that we've been putting off for a long time, to allowing these things to grow. And trust is to just see what happens with the best of intentions, and hopefully something works itself out. But this is a hard lesson to take, and its cost is a lesson that is needed to be learned in a way that is fair on all, because otherwise it will leave you stuck in a same situation where you might have otherwise been able to move forward. And the best way to start is to start asking questions within yourself, and maybe to start a journal in your own private time to work through the reasons, to gain the bigger picture and to find the way forward. And I'll leave that there, but it's a very big thing to go through, and I just wanted to talk about it a bit further. So, yeah. This will do. But journaling is a great way to develop a inner narrative of your own inner work, and to create a good energy in finding those next steps to improve it, to self-improvement. And sometimes that is all these things require us to do, are these little first steps to take forward. Is to accept the way forward.